The cosmic calls and earthly enigmas, the ongoing allure of mystery. Have you ever paused for a moment and asked yourself if the modern world bursting with scientific advancements, smartphones, satellites, and instantaneous communication might still harbor ancient enigmas that refuse to be fully explained? In an age dominated by technology, it is tempting to believe that everything follows a simple cause and effect, that every question has a precise answer, just a few keystrokes away. And yet, from the dense forests of North America to the quiet deserts of Nevada, and from hidden corners of American history to the very edges of our night skies, there persist stories and happenings that challenge the most rational minds. These legends, sightings, vanishings, and eerie discoveries exist both as riveting tales and as reminders that perhaps our universe holds far more than we can neatly categorize with data or advanced equations. Even with an array of scientific tools at our disposal, telescopes peering into the vast cosmos, laboratories conducting groundbreaking experiments, and artificial intelligence unraveling complex patterns, some phenomena remain defiant in the face of logical explanation. People still report lights in the sky that move in impossible ways. Cryptic creatures, half ape and half human, supposedly roam forests that have been mapped and explored for centuries. Entire societies vanish without leaving a discernible trail. Government documents sometimes heavily redacted hint at hidden truths that spark both intrigue and distrust. The question of whether we are alone in the universe has never been more relevant, and the possibility that we share this planet with phenomena beyond our ordinary understanding has never ceased to fascinate us. In America, in particular, these stories are woven deeply into cultural folklore. Whispered tales of cryptids, ghostly apparitions, cursed diamonds, and unsolved crimes have shaped local identities for generations. Many of these stories first emerged from small communities, gradually attracting the attention of the entire nation and eventually the world. Sometimes these anomalies are chalked up to mass hysteria, illusions or hoaxes. At other times, the compelling consistencies among independent witnesses and physical traces left behind prompt even the most skeptical observers to wonder what exactly is taking place. In the chapters to follow, we will journey through an array of these unsolved mysteries. From eerie signals that might be messages from far-flung galaxies to the hidden fortunes of pirates lying buried beneath American soil. From ill-fated flights across the Pacific to unexplained footsteps echoing in cursed homesteads, each account challenges our concepts of what is known versus what still lurks in the realm of speculation. So fasten your metaphorical seatbelt and prepare to step beyond the ordinary. Together, we will explore the perplexing tapestry of America's greatest and at times spookiest mysteries, each one a puzzle that has teased investigators, scientists, adventurers, and dreamers for decades or even centuries. The question remains, will any of these enigmas be solved in our lifetime, or do they point to truths that lie perpetually out of reach? From cosmic echoes, the wow signal, to gaze upward at the night sky is to stand at the edge of an unfathomably vast expanse, filled with innumerable stars and the possibility of worlds like our own. Yet amid the cacophony of cosmic static, there has been one particular event that resonates loudly in the annals of astronomy, the famous wow signal detected in 1977. If you have ever considered the odds that we are not alone in the cosmos, the wow signal is like a potent exclamation point that refuses to fade from memory. Detected at Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope, it arrived with such unexpected intensity and clarity that astronomer Jerry Amon scribbled the now iconic "wow" in the margins of the computer printout. That single, breathless note instantly captured global attention, sparking the imaginations of both scientists and everyday stargazers alike. The signal, lasting precisely 72 seconds, emanated from a specific region of the sky near the constellation of Sagittarius. During that brief window, the telescope's receivers registered an intensity far above background noise, something that might be explained by an artificial transmitter, perhaps from a highly advanced civilization. On top of that, the frequency band matched the 1420 MHz hydrogen line, a channel widely considered a prime candidate for interstellar communication because hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. If one were to craft a beacon to announce their existence, transmitting on this frequency would be a logical choice. Despite multiple follow-up observations, no one has ever observed the signal's exact signature again. Many astronomers have tried to replicate the conditions, repeatedly pointing radio telescopes at the same patch of sky. Each attempt, however, ended in silence, as if that anomalous message had been a cosmic whisper never to return. Over the years, theories have poured in. Some point to a high-orbit satellite or top-secret military technology as a plausible explanation, though astrophysicists and engineers typically counter that the nature of the signal did not match any known Earth-based interference. Others believe it was simply a cosmic anomaly, a momentary alignment of natural radio emissions that by rare chance mimicked the pattern of an intelligent signal. What keeps the wow signal so firmly entrenched in popular imagination is not just its mystery, but the deeper question it represents. Are we truly alone? If in fact the signal came from an extraterrestrial civilization, then why transmit only once? Was it a lone pulse, an accidental leak of a beacon from a distant planet, or perhaps the product of an advanced civilization that simply moved on or directed its signals elsewhere? Regardless of the ultimate source, this fleeting anomaly serves as a focal point for the hopes and dreams of those yearning to discover evidence of life beyond Earth. For them, that 72-second blast is not just a historical curiosity, but a tantalizing reminder that at any moment across the cosmic sea, someone or something might just be calling out. A nation shaken. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy. While the wow signal raises our gaze to the universe, certain mysteries bring our focus firmly back to Earth, confronting national tragedies so shattering they remain etched into the collective psyche. Few events in American history have generated as many conspiracy theories or unanswered questions as the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. On November 20, 1963, the promise and optimism of a young presidency came crashing down in Dealey Plaza, Dallas, when gunshots rang out from above, or possibly from multiple directions according to various witnesses, and the charismatic leader's life was cut short in full view of horrified spectators. Lee Harvey Oswald, swiftly arrested and declared the lone gunman, never had the opportunity to reveal his motives or proclaim his innocence or guilt. Just 2 days after Kennedy's death, Oswald was shot by Jack Ruby inside the very police station meant to secure him. The nation was plunged deeper into uncertainty. Who exactly was Oswald, and why had he been so quickly silenced? Was this a spontaneous act of vengeance by a distraught nightclub owner, or evidence of a more sinister conspiracy? In the decades that followed, official investigations and volumes of classified documents offered a straightforward narrative. Oswald acted alone, a troubled individual who single-handedly altered the course of American history. Yet a significant portion of the public remains unconvinced. Alternate theories abound, from suspicions about the Central Intelligence Agency's involvement, given Kennedy's known friction with them, to possibilities that the Mafia orchestrated the killing in retaliation for the administration's crackdown on organized crime. Some argue the murder was a coup d'etat, orchestrated by high-ranking officials within the government, especially given the swirling controversies regarding Vietnam and the Bay of Pigs fiasco. Further fueling the skepticism are the curious irregularities in forensic evidence. Some witnesses insist they heard shots coming from the grassy knoll in front of the presidential motorcade, rather than just from the Texas schoolbook depository. Acoustic tests, photographic analyses, and thousands of hours of documentary footage have been pored over by independent investigators, looking for that elusive piece of proof that might definitively solve the case. Even medical data and Zapruder film frames have been dissected, with arguments that bullet trajectories and timing do not match the lone gunman scenario. Despite the mountain of theories and the release of countless government documents, the JFK assassination remains somewhat open-ended in the minds of many. Was the Warren Commission correct in labeling Oswald the only shooter? Could the subsequent House Select Committee on Assassination's admission of a likely conspiracy bear more weight than officials care to admit? And why do new leads and revelations continue to surface decade after decade? For better or worse, the JFK assassination continues to be a symbol of lost innocence of a nation robbed of its youthful, forward-thinking president. It underscores just how swiftly a single moment can upend entire societies and spawn unending layers of conjecture. Even now, modern technologies like 3D forensics and advanced audio analysis have not laid the matter conclusively to rest. The question remains: did one man's bullet truly change America's destiny, or was there a deeper and darker web at play? Pirate Legends: The Lost Treasure of Captain Kidd. Centuries before cutting-edge technology started scanning the skies for extraterrestrial messages, adventurers and dreamers were scanning the horizon in search of glittering fortunes. Among the many pirate tales that capture the collective imagination, few are as enduring as the legend of Captain William Kidd and his elusive hoard of treasure. Romanticized by movies and novels, the story of Captain Kidd remains one of the most tenacious unsolved quests in America, weaving a narrative of secrecy, betrayal, and the tantalizing possibility of unimaginable riches hidden just beneath our feet. William Kidd began his maritime career not as a pirate, but as a privateer authorized by the British Crown to hunt down lawless buccaneers in the high seas. However, somewhere in the late 17th century, circumstances turned him from hunter to hunted, from man of law to rogue. Whether through poor decisions, mounting debts, or navigational missteps that led him to plunder, Kidd found himself branded a pirate, a label carrying a death sentence. According to folklore, as he swept through sea lanes and coastal areas, he accrued a fortune in gold coins, rare jewels, and other prized valuables, more wealth than any pirate could spend in a lifetime. While awaiting his grim fate, Kidd reportedly hinted at having buried his treasure along the eastern shores of America. The earliest rumors placed this burial site on Gardiner's Island near Long Island, New York, where a small portion of his loot was indeed discovered. But the bulk of it, a mother lode purportedly capable of turning men into kings, remained unaccounted for. Over the centuries, explorers have scoured countless beaches, peninsulas, and inlets, guided by cryptic maps handed down through families or discovered in dusty attics. Each new generation brings high-tech equipment, ground-penetrating radars, satellite imaging to the ancient quest. Frustration often follows these expeditions. Some researchers argue that the entire treasure story is exaggerated, that the riches Kidd claimed to have buried were never substantial to begin with. Others suspect that he dispersed his loot in multiple locations to thwart any would-be claimants or to buy himself leniency with the crown. Indeed, if he had cunning enough to elude the Royal Navy for a while, he might have been equally cunning about where and how he hid his fortune. Still, the legend endures, because it embodies the larger pirate mythos, the lure of the unknown, the chase for hidden gold, and the underlying belief that with enough perseverance, luck, and cunning, one might strike it big. Far more than just a fable of monetary gain, Captain Kidd's alleged treasure is symbolic a reflection of how some human stories can persist across centuries, fueled by just enough documented evidence to make the impossible feel possible. Whether it truly lies out there waiting under the sands, or is but a phantom conjured by tall tales, the quest continues to beckon. To this day, restless souls with dreams of fortune still dig along the coasts of New England and beyond, chasing the echo of a pirate's last secret. Forest phantoms, Bigfoot. Just as mariners of old once chased the glint of hidden gold, modern-day adventurers, or at least those with a penchant for the paranormal, often find themselves combing through dense forests or remote mountain passes in search of towering ape-like beings known collectively as Bigfoot. From California's redwood groves to the fog-shrouded peaks of the Pacific Northwest, countless stories circulate about a mysterious bipedal creature covered in dark hair, occasionally leaving massive footprints in its wake. Weighing perhaps hundreds of pounds, these creatures, if they exist, have evaded conclusive scientific capture, emerging instead in grainy photographs, plaster casts of footprints, and eyewitness accounts that spark as much debate as they do excitement. Cultural tales of giant, hairy hominids are not exclusive to the modern world. Indigenous tribes across North America have long spoken of cryptic forest dwellers, beings rumored to possess intelligent strength and a profound connection to the wilderness. However, it wasn't until 1967 when Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin allegedly filmed a female Bigfoot striding along Bluff Creek in Northern California that Bigfoot mania truly erupted on a national scale. This brief but iconic film clip shows a large, hair-covered creature glancing over its shoulder before disappearing into the forest. Although critics have labeled it a hoax, thorough analysis of the video has never fully dispelled the mystery. Indeed, proponents often cite the body proportions or muscle movements they say would be nearly impossible to fake convincingly in a costume of the 1960s. Over time, thousands of Bigfoot sightings have been catalogued. Witnesses describe encounters marked by powerful odors, tree knocks, or eerie vocalizations echoing through moonlit woods. More than one hunter has sworn they briefly locked eyes with a towering figure among the pines only for it to vanish noiselessly. In modern years, some have turned to thermal imaging cameras, drone technology, and advanced audio recorders in hopes of attaining irrefutable proof. Yet definitive evidence, consistent DNA samples, bodies, or live captures remains elusive. Critics argue that in an era of smartphones ubiquitous with high-resolution video, the dearth of crystal-clear footage suggests Bigfoot is more legend than living entity. Nevertheless, the question persists: if such a creature is merely folklore, why do so many unrelated witnesses report similar features, massive footprints with dermal ridges, pungent smells reminiscent of wet fur, and extraordinary height, well over 6 or 7 feet? Some theories posit that Bigfoot is a surviving offshoot of Gigantopithecus, a prehistoric great ape. Others suggest it could be a human-like species adept at camouflage, or even spiritual guardians of nature that slip between physical and metaphysical realms. The scientific community, by and large, demands tangible proof, but the continuous trickle of eyewitness accounts keeps the concept alive. In a world dissected by highways and satellites, the notion that something enormous and unknown can still wander unseen resonates powerfully with those who believe. To them, Bigfoot represents more than just a cryptid. It is a symbol of our planet's uncharted frontiers, a testament that wilderness still pulses beneath our modern facade. Skeptics and believers agree on at least one point: until a definitive Bigfoot is tracked and scientifically verified, this mystery remains the domain of legends, occasionally spotted footprints, and whispered campfire stories that stir the imagination of anyone who dares to venture deep among the towering trees. Vanished in the skies, the disappearance of Amelia Earhart. From the remote forests to the boundless ocean skies, the mysteries of uncharted territory can manifest in the most heartbreaking ways. If ever there was an aviator who captivated the world with her daring spirit, it was Amelia Earhart, a woman determined to conquer the skies, and in doing so, break barriers for generations to come. Already famed as the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, Earhart embarked on her most audacious dream in 1937 to circumnavigate the globe along the equator, a path considered particularly grueling due to weather conditions and the remoteness of key refueling stops. Setting off with her navigator, Fred Noonan Earhart managed to overcome numerous hurdles. Yet on July 2, 1937, while en route from Lae, New Guinea to Howland Island, a tiny speck in the vast Pacific, her radio transmissions became increasingly strained and frantic. Then, total silence. Earhart Noonan and their Lockheed Electra seemingly vanished into thin air, leaving nothing but speculation and a void that spanned the seas. The United States mounted a massive search operation, utilizing ships, planes, and an unprecedented level of naval coordination, but not a single trace of the aircraft or its passengers was definitively found. Overnight, Amelia Earhart's disappearance became a global sensation, an unsolved puzzle that has continued to spark theories, investigations, and bold expeditions. Over the decades, numerous explanations have been proposed. The most conservative is that Earhart's fuel ran out, causing her plane to crash into the Pacific. Strong headwinds, navigational errors, or a malfunctioning radio might have contributed to an emergency landing that claimed her life. However, more intriguing theories suggest alternative fates. Some believe she crash-landed on a deserted island, perhaps Gardner Island, present-day Nikumaroro, surviving briefly as a castaway evidenced by found artifacts like remnants of a woman's shoe and scattered bones that some claim to be Earhart's. Another theory alleges that Earhart was captured by Japanese forces, a notion fueled by unverified reports, local legends, and even alleged photographs purporting to show Earhart and Noonan in Japanese custody. Adding further layers of intrigue, conspiracy theories propose that Earhart was on a covert mission for the U.S. government, using her navigation route to spy on Japanese island bases. According to this view, the government covered up the operation, leaving the official record murky. Some alternative accounts even suggest she returned to America under a new identity to avoid publicity, though no credible evidence has emerged to support such claims. What remains striking is that Earhart, in her final radio messages, sounded composed yet anxious, claiming to be flying on a specific navigational line, but unable to locate Howland Island. If her plane had set down on a coral atoll or crashed just outside the search parameters, one can only imagine the frustration for rescue crews who scoured open water in an era before satellite imagery and GPS. Today, advanced undersea drones and privately funded expeditions continue to probe the Pacific's depths. Pieces of metal, personal items, and potential forensic clues occasionally surface, igniting fresh waves of analysis and speculation. Amelia Earhart's disappearance transcends the mere tragedy of a lost aviator. She stands as an emblem of fearless exploration, a spirit propelling humanity's collective aspiration to push beyond known boundaries. Her unsolved fate beckons to all who dream of new frontiers, evoking both admiration for her daring quest and a lingering sadness for the final chapter of her life that remains unwritten. Indeed, the continuing search for Amelia Earhart is as much about finding closure for a historical figure as it is a testament to mankind's boundless drive to uncover hidden truths. Strangers in Black. The Men in Black phenomenon. Earhart's story underscores how humanity's greatest leaps can end in heart-wrenching enigmas. Yet for some, mysteries emanate from the margins of modern lore, fueling speculation about clandestine forces at work behind the scenes. One such mythos that blurs the line between government secrecy and extraterrestrial intrigue is the phenomenon of the Men in Black. Typically described as tall, pale figures dressed in dark suits, ties, and sunglasses, these men allegedly appear following UFO sightings or close encounters, offering veiled warnings, cryptic remarks, or outright intimidation to silence witnesses. Reports about the Men in Black first circulated in the 1940s and 1950s, an era when UFOs were headline news and the possibility of alien visitation seemed more tangible than ever. Early accounts often featured ordinary citizens reporting unusual aerial phenomena, only to find themselves visited at home or at work by stern men, brandishing official-looking credentials. Their skin tones were said to be unnaturally pale, their voices mechanical as though unfamiliar with basic human expressions or slang. In some narratives, these men displayed confusion over everyday objects, further suggesting they might not be entirely human. The most notable early case dates back to 1947, when Harold Dahl claimed that 6 unidentified flying objects scattered metallic debris onto his boat near Maury Island in Washington. Soon after, he was visited by a mysterious man in a black suit who issued dire warnings about discussing what he had witnessed. The suddenness and intimidation tactics in Dahl's account became a hallmark of subsequent Men in Black stories, resonating with others who claimed similar encounters. Then came Albert K. Bender, who in the 1950s abruptly disbanded his UFO research organization after being allegedly threatened by 3 men in black suits. an incident widely publicized thanks to Gray Barker's seminal book, They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers. Explanations for the men in black run the gamut. Skeptics maintain these encounters are simply mass hysteria or confabulations spun by imaginative minds to explain the unsettling reality of post-World War II technological leaps. Another group insists that they are government agents, perhaps from agencies like the FBI or CIA, dispatched to stifle reports about top-secret projects or advanced military aircraft mistaken for UFOs. Then there is the more otherworldly interpretation. Maybe these figures are themselves extraterrestrials, attempting to cover up their own existence by intimidating those who get too close to the truth. Investigative researchers have tried for decades to root out definitive evidence. Some have interviewed alleged witnesses under hypnosis, seeking consistency and detail. Others have combed through declassified government documents in search of references to unexplained visits or hush-up campaigns. Meanwhile, the Men in Black motif has ingrained itself deeply in pop culture, culminating in blockbuster movies that mix comedy with conspiracy, ironically overshadowing the original accounts with Hollywood glitz. Despite the ridicule that often accompanies these stories, the psychological impact on alleged witnesses is real. Many describe persistent fear nightmares or a lingering sense of paranoia that they are being watched. The phenomenon, true or not, shines a light on how secrecy and the unknown can breed elaborate lore. As long as UFO sightings persist and the question of extraterrestrial life remains open, stories of silent watchers in dark suits will likely continue lurking in the shadows where official narratives and private anxieties converge. Guarded Secrets Area 51 in the UFO Connection. The Men in Black legend feeds on the broader suspicion that certain powerful entities operate in secrecy, possibly hoarding knowledge of alien technology. Nowhere do these suspicions crystallize more than in the cryptic realm of Area 51, a secretive military base located in the arid Nevada desert roughly 80 miles northwest of Las Vegas. For decades, the United States government flatly denied its existence, fueling public fascination and giving rise to 1,000 conspiratorial whispers. Even once the CIA finally acknowledged Area 51's existence in 2013, officials maintain that it served primarily as a testing ground for advanced aircraft like the U-2 spy plane, the SR-71 Blackbird, and stealth fighters. Yet that straightforward explanation failed to quell the storm of rumors regarding UFOs and alien bodies allegedly stored there. Much of the lore revolves around a purported craft that supposedly crashed near Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, a separate incident that we will revisit in more detail later. According to many conspiracy theorists, the wreckage, and possibly alien corpses, was whisked away to a secure hangar at Area 51 for clandestine study. Over the years, numerous self-proclaimed whistleblowers have come forward to describe a sprawling underground complex with alien artifacts, advanced propulsion systems, and ongoing attempts at reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology. In 1989, Bob Lazar lit a fuse of renewed interest when he revealed on a Las Vegas news broadcast that he had worked at a site called S4 near Area 51. Lazar alleged that he had first-hand experience with 9 flying discs of non-human origin, each with gravity-bending power sources. Skeptics pointed out inconsistencies in Lazar's credentials and personal history, yet his story found an enthusiastic audience. It gave shape to the notion that Area 51 was more than a top-secret base. It was a cosmic Rosetta Stone bridging earthly science and alien engineering. The desert skies around Area 51, known for unusual test flights, have proven fertile ground for UFO sightings. Although many can be attributed to classified military aircraft, the aura of secrecy fosters imaginative leaps, with road signs warning travelers not to trespass and security forces patrolling the perimeter. The place seems tailor-made for speculation. Revelers and truth-seekers gather in nearby towns like Rachel, Nevada, peering into the night sky for glimpses of craft that defy explanation. Meanwhile, mainstream scientists caution that jumping from secretive military base to alien stronghold is a massive leap. After all, secrecy often surrounds state-of-the-art aeronautical projects. The stealth technology tested there in the 1970s and 1980s indeed caused multiple UFO reports from bystanders unaware they were watching next-generation jets. Official documents describing these programs, once declassified, showed the legitimate reason for such concealment was national defense, not extraterrestrial alliances. Still, the question lingers, does Area 51 hide advanced technologies that dwarf anything publicly acknowledged? Are rumors of extraterrestrial artifacts simply a byproduct of Cold War hush-hush protocols? Or is there a kernel of staggering truth behind these tales? One that might confirm that humanity is not alone. Until clear evidence emerges, Area 51's legacy remains one part verifiable U.S. history, an essential site for groundbreaking aviation, and one part intangible possibility that somewhere in its desert hush we might find the ultimate cosmic secret. Treacherous waters. The Bermuda Triangle. Just as the deserts of Nevada spark imaginations about the sky, the Atlantic Ocean off the southeastern coast of the United States has its own swathe of sea that raises countless questions. Dubbed the Bermuda Triangle, or sometimes the Devil's Triangle. This loosely defined area stretches between Miami, Bermuda, and San Juan, Puerto Rico. Here, planes have allegedly vanished mid-flight, and ships have been reported lost without a single distress call. Over the past century or more, stories of inexplicable disappearances have proliferated, weaving this particular patch of ocean into one of the most notorious maritime mysteries on the planet. The myth of the Bermuda Triangle cemented itself in public consciousness in 1945 with the disappearance of Flight 19, a squadron of 5 U.S. Navy TBM Avenger torpedo bombers on a routine training mission. After reporting bizarre instrument malfunctions and disorientation, the flight leader's transmissions dissolved into static, never to be heard from again. Even more perplexing, a search plane deployed to locate Flight 19 also vanished. An extensive rescue operation combed thousands of square miles of ocean but recovered no wreckage. This incident alone birthed a legacy of dread, fueling speculation of supernatural forces, sea monsters, alien abductions, or energy vortices from the lost city of Atlantis. Scientists have generally taken a more measured stance. Strong, unpredictable currents, specifically the swift Gulf Stream, can indeed carry debris or wreckage away from expected crash sites, complicating rescue or recovery efforts. Sudden violent storms, waterspouts, and rogue waves are also known to occur in that subtropical stretch, adding another layer of natural risk. Moreover, the region is one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world, so even a normal rate of accidents can appear abnormally high in absolute numbers. Despite these rational explanations, pop culture loves a good puzzle. Many theories surpass mundane weather patterns. Some claim anomalies in the Earth's magnetic field distort navigational instruments. Others insist on pockets of flammable methane hydrates erupting from the ocean floor, though evidence for massive blowouts is inconclusive. For the more speculative-minded, the Bermuda Triangle is a hotspot of extraterrestrial or interdimensional activity, where crafts or entire crews are plucked into parallel realities. Decades of research, however, suggest that the Bermuda Triangle may not be significantly more dangerous than any other heavily traveled ocean route. Statistically, the number of incidents might be proportionate to its high volume of marine traffic and treacherous local weather. Even so, the public's fascination endures partly because so many vessels have indeed fallen off the radar. The lingering image of an immaculate sea with not a scrap of wreckage can leave families, investigators, and the broader public reeling with unsatisfied curiosity. Ultimately, whether you see the Bermuda Triangle as a maritime boogeyman or simply a lore-laden corner of the Atlantic, its legend remains etched in global imagination. Pilots and captains still sometimes feel an uneasy flutter as they cross those waters. And to a world that revels in unsolved stories, the Bermuda Triangle stands as a cultural emblem, an ever-churning swirl of fact, fancy science, and speculation, waiting for the day when the final piece of the puzzle might snap into place. Haunting histories and human perplexities. Roswell and the seeds of modern UFO mythos. Emerging from the swirling waters of the Bermuda Triangle, we return once again to the deserts of the American Southwest, this time to recount a story that stands as an undeniable cornerstone of modern UFO lore, the Roswell incident of 1947. On a hot summer morning near Roswell, New Mexico, a rancher stumbled upon curious debris scattered across his land. Suspecting it was part of a flying disc, at least according to the Army Air Force's initial press release, he alerted the local authorities. Almost immediately, the military changed its story, asserting that the object was simply a weather balloon. But that abrupt pivot in the official narrative sparked a frenzy of speculation, a chain reaction that has lasted decades. What truly transpired on that day in 1947? Those who believe in the extraterrestrial hypothesis insist the crash was no balloon secret project or other mundane technology. Instead, they hold that an alien craft possibly disabled by a lightning strike or mechanical failure plummeted into the quiet farmland. Some claim that alien bodies, small gray-skinned beings with large heads, were discovered and whisked away to secret military laboratories. The fact that the U.S. government initially labeled it a flying disc has been dissected 1,000 times, stirring doubts about how such a mistaken or conflicting statement could be issued. In 1994, a new official explanation surfaced, identifying the wreckage as part of Project Mogul, an effort involving high-altitude balloons designed to detect Soviet atomic bomb tests. Further, the reported sightings of alien bodies were attributed to crash test dummies deployed in subsequent experiments, though skeptics question why locals in 1947 would recall details about dummies that were not used until later dates. Conspiracists interpret such discrepancies as proof of an ongoing cover-up. Indeed, the relentless interest in Roswell led to the creation of UFO museums, international conferences, and countless documentaries. Roswell effectively crystallized the public's fascination with the possibility of extraterrestrial visitation and planted seeds for a subculture that demands disclosure of alien contact. Meanwhile, serious researchers of the period comb local newspaper archives, examine the testimonies of ranchers and local law enforcement, and trace the labyrinth of official statements and retractions. Debunkers point to the era's heightened sense of paranoia just 2 years after World War II as the Cold War was simmering, and propose that secrecy around advanced technology might explain the confusion. Yet the emotional weight of the story persists. People want to believe. They want closure about the question of, are we alone, and Roswell remains for better or worse the epicenter of that enduring hope. Regardless of whether you believe the Roswell incident points to advanced alien life or a balloon-laden reconnaissance project, one cannot deny its transformative influence on popular culture. It turned the idea of crashed flying saucers and secret alien autopsies into mainstream topics and helped shape decades of science fiction. And while new revelations occasionally surface, fueling a perpetual sense of maybe we're getting closer to the truth, the event has slipped seamlessly into the tapestry of American myth. Indeed, Roswell's fame testifies to just how hungry we are as a species for cosmic revelation, for the idea that our place in the universe might be bigger and stranger than we ever imagined. Challenging history. The phantom time hypothesis. Not all mysteries deal with aliens or specters. Some cut to the bedrock of our collective timeline, questioning whether our commonly accepted history might itself be riddled with massive deceptions. Among these is one of the most audacious, albeit lesser-known propositions in modern historiography, the phantom time hypothesis. Introduced by German historian Heribert Illig in the early 1990s, this theory posits that nearly 3 centuries of our early medieval past, from around 614 to 911 CE, were never real. Instead, they were invented by powerful rulers seeking to manipulate the dating of events to align their reigns with what they regarded as more auspicious or significant moments. Why would anyone fabricate history on such a massive scale? According to Illig, Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, Pope Sylvester II, and Byzantine Emperor Constantine II conspired to situate Otto's rule neatly at the dawn of the first millennium. By adjusting calendars, forging documents, and rewriting annals, they supposedly inserted a few hundred phantom years. Under this hypothesis, major figures like Charlemagne may be either entirely fictional or heavily embellished beyond recognition. The Romanesque and Gothic architectural advancements credited to that era might actually belong to a shifted timeline. Critics label the theory as outlandish, pointing to abundant archaeological and astronomical evidence that calibrates well with conventional chronology. For instance, historical observations of solar and lunar eclipses match precisely with the accepted dating, leaving little wiggle room for an artificially inflated timeline. Moreover, the consistent layering of artifacts in sites across Europe appears to confirm that those centuries were indeed occupied and evolving. Yet proponents of the phantom time hypothesis argue that many medieval documents lack original sources, and that references to these missing centuries can be maddeningly vague or contradictory. So, is it a grand conspiracy or a curious misinterpretation of scattered historical irregularities, regardless of its plausibility? The hypothesis underscores the fragility of what we call recorded history, especially given how few people were literate in centuries past, and how reliant official records were on scribes loyal to rulers. Illig's idea prompts an uncomfortable but stimulating question. How confident can we ever be about the unbroken chain of events in our distant past? Though the phantom time hypothesis never gained mainstream acceptance. It remains a thought experiment in academic circles and a staple of fringe discourse on the internet. For many, it's a reminder that our knowledge of history hinges on documents and artifacts that themselves can be lost, forged, or misread. Could entire epochs be erroneous or invented? Most experts say no. But the conversation has sparked renewed interest in cross-verifying timelines through scientific means like dendrochronology, tree ring dating, radiocarbon dating, and astrophysical retrocalculations tools that can align written records with tangible evidence from nature. If nothing else, the phantom time hypothesis reveals that even the bedrock of chronology is not immune to scrutiny, ensuring that historians continue to refine their understanding of how we piece together the puzzle of our collective past. America's vanishing colony, Roanoke. While the phantom time hypothesis questions the very existence of centuries, other mysteries hinge on the disappearance of a single settlement, one that predates many of the established colonies. The lost colony of Roanoke stands as a haunting chapter in American history, a puzzle that has perplexed researchers for more than 4 centuries. In 1587, a group of 115 English settlers, led by John White, arrived on Roanoke Island near the Outer Banks of modern-day North Carolina, with the goal of establishing a permanent foothold in the New World. Among them were men, women, and children, including the first English child, born on American soil, Virginia Dare. Struggling with shortages of food and supplies, John White sailed back to England, intending to return quickly. However, the Anglo-Spanish War delayed his voyage for nearly 3 years. When White finally set foot again on Roanoke in 1590, the colony had been abandoned. Houses were dismantled, personal belongings were missing, and no one, dead or alive, remained. The only clue was a single word carved into a post, Croatoan. As Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, present-day Hatteras Island, inhabited by the indigenous Croatoan people, White presumed the settlers may have migrated there. Yet subsequent searches yielded no clear trace of the colonists. Over time, this single cryptic clue evolved into a legend. Who or what forced or lured these colonists away? Popular theories range from assimilation into local tribes, such as the Croatoan, to violent confrontations that ended in massacre. More fantastical conjectures suggest Spanish invaders from Florida may have eradicated them. Yet the puzzle remains. If there was a battle, where are the remains? If they integrated with the tribes, why are there so few conclusive records or definitive genetic ties? Indeed, scattered accounts mention natives with European physical traits or the ability to speak rudimentary English, but none definitively confirm the fate of the entire colony. In the centuries since, archaeologists, historians, and even amateur sleuths have made repeated attempts to unearth the truth. Excavations on Hatteras Island have produced fragments of 16th-century European items, broken ceramics, a signet ring part of a gun mechanism. These artifacts suggest that at least some Roanoke settlers might have made it to Croatoan territory. Other studies focus on Dare County's historical sites and newly uncovered artifacts. While promising leads emerge occasionally, they fail to provide a unified explanation. DNA testing of local families has thus far been inconclusive, showing no definitive link to the missing English settlers. The lost colony's enduring power lies in its simplicity. Over 100 men, women, and children vanished without leaving a direct explanation. This void invites the imagination to fill in the gaps with everything from mystical forces to hidden alliances. Even the word Croatoan remains ambiguous. Was it a farewell message, a marker, or something scribbled under duress? Each generation imagines it anew. For many, Roanoke represents a cautionary tale of how harsh conditions, precarious supply lines, and tensions with indigenous inhabitants could doom the earliest efforts at colonization. For others, it is an American ghost story par excellence, an unsolvable riddle that keeps echoing across the centuries. Until conclusive evidence surfaces, the fate of those 115 souls remains among the oldest unsolved puzzles in the New World. Military maneuvers or mad science. The Philadelphia experiment. Moving from a forlorn 16th century colony to the throes of World War II, we find another enigma that hovers between the realms of physics and folklore, the so-called Philadelphia experiment. In 1943, according to widespread rumors and a few elusive eyewitness accounts, the U.S. Navy supposedly conducted a top-secret endeavor to render the USS Eldridge invisible or perhaps even teleport it to confound enemy radar. What followed, if the stories are to be believed, was a calamity beyond imagination, involving physical dislocation, horrifying side effects, and a relentless hush-up that continues to this day. Most versions of the legend stem from the letters of a man named Carl Allen, who also wrote under the alias Carlos Allende. He claimed that on October 28, 1943, the USS Eldridge vanished in a greenish haze from the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard and reappeared moments later hundreds of miles away in Norfolk, Virginia. Some accounts depict the crew of the Eldridge as enduring grotesque aftermaths. Tales of sailors fused to the steel hull of the ship, others suffering mental breakdowns from the shock, and a few vanishing entirely. Proponents of the story often cite connections to Albert Einstein's theoretical work on unified field theory, positing that the Navy inadvertently tapped into effects that bent space and time. The Navy categorically denies any such experiment took place, insisting that official logs placed the Eldridge in a different location at the time. Skeptics also argue that the story arises from the misinterpretation of routine tests, such as degaussing, a process used to reduce a ship's magnetic signature so it becomes less susceptible to mines. However, the rumors have persisted for decades, fueled by books, documentaries, and continuous speculation in UFO and paranormal circles. For those who believe the Philadelphia experiment stands as a stark warning of how advanced research might dangerously outstrip ethical boundaries, pushing scientists and military leaders into terrain they scarcely understand. Supporters of the story highlight the case of another ship, the SS Andrew Forsyth, whose crew reported an unusual haze or flash of light around the time the Eldridge was rumored to be in the area. However, official clarifications suggest these could be natural phenomena, optical illusions, or standard tests misunderstood by non-technical observers. The lack of concrete documentation, combined with the outlandish nature of the claims, relegates the Philadelphia experiment largely to the realm of conspiracy. Yet it continues to enthrall because it raises the possibility of hidden leaps in military technology that approach science fiction. Beyond the specifics, the Philadelphia experiment resonates with broader anxieties about war secrecy and the uncertain power of scientific breakthroughs. If such events did occur, it might imply that humanity unknowingly stands on the threshold of manipulating space-time, an arena once relegated to the imaginative realm of theoretical physics. And if it did not happen, the legend remains a cautionary tale about how rumors can spiral into complex narratives that overshadow historical fact. Either way, the Philadelphia experiment exemplifies the potent mix of fear, ambition, and intrigue that emerges when science meets the dire imperatives of global conflict. Buried secrets, the Black Hope curse. Not all mysteries unfold at sea or in the sky. Sometimes they lie directly beneath our feet. The suburban town of Crosby, Texas, is home to one such unsettling narrative that has come to be known as the Black Hope curse. In the early 1980s, developers built the Newport subdivision, a modern community with tidy lawns, playgrounds, and family homes. Little did anyone realize that the land concealed a long-forgotten African-American cemetery from the 19th century, hidden by time and oversight. It wasn't until a local couple, Sam and Judith Haney, decided to dig a swimming pool that the area's dark past was dramatically unearthed, literally when they discovered 2 old wooden coffins on their property. From that point on, unsettling events reportedly plagued not just the Haneys, but many other residents of Newport. Some described hearing footsteps echoing through their halls at night, or finding household objects mysteriously rearranged. Lights flickered on and off, and clocks would sometimes flash numbers, even if they weren't plugged in. Even more frightening were stories of serious illnesses, financial ruin, and tragic accidents seemingly linked to the desecration of old graves. Families began to blame the land itself, convinced that disturbing these ancient resting places had unleashed malevolent forces or aggrieved spirits. A wave of media attention followed, replete with interviews, talk show appearances, and lawsuits. Several homeowners took legal action against the subdivision's developers, accusing them of either failing to disclose the land's macabre history or being ignorant of it. In some cases, the psychological toll was almost as devastating as any purported curse. Residents were terrified to enter their own homes at night. Skeptics pointed to confirmation bias and the emotional stress of discovering graves in one's backyard, suggesting these factors could explain an uptick in reported hauntings. Nonetheless, the stories that emerged from Newport are chillingly consistent: spectral figures glimpsed in mirrors, unexplained cold spots in hallways, and recurring nightmares that ended only when families moved away. Although many of the original homes have since changed ownership, a lingering sense of unease continues to envelop the area. Some residents refuse to speak of it altogether, while others see it as a cautionary tale about respecting the dead and the land's history. Archaeologists and local historians have confirmed that parts of the development were indeed built over historical burial grounds. It is impossible to say how many coffins remain undiscovered beneath the manicured lawns, or how comprehensive the efforts were to relocate remains before construction. This uncertainty has only magnified the sense of foreboding, enabling rumors of curses to take on lives of their own. Whether these events reflect supernatural vengeance or psychological stress, the Black Hope Curse saga underscores the deep human need to honor those who came before us. It also reveals how abruptly ordinary suburban life can unravel when confronted with the realization that the past, even in unmarked graves, may hold secrets powerful enough to shake the living. A Maze of Spirits. The Winchester Mystery House. If the Black Hope Curse has taught us that unearthing the past can reveal hidden darkness, the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California teaches us something else. Sometimes the best way to handle haunted guilt or fear is to never stop building. This sprawling mansion, once owned by Sarah Winchester of the famed Winchester Repeating Arms fortune, stands as an architectural oddity with its twisting corridors, staircases leading nowhere, and doors that open onto blank walls. For 38 continuous years, from 1884 until Sarah's death in 1922, construction never ceased. Carpenters toiled day and night, adding rooms, removing them, redesigning floors, and constructing baffling features. Legend has it that Sarah was convinced the spirits of those killed by Winchester rifles pursued her, seeking vengeance on the family that profited from their deaths. Visiting a medium for spiritual guidance, she was allegedly told to keep building in order to confuse these restless ghosts, ensuring they could never find her in the endless labyrinth of corridors and secret rooms. True or not, the result is a 160-room architectural enigma featuring staircases that ascend into ceilings and windows that peer into other rooms rather than the outside world. Over the years, rumors of ghostly activity permeate the house's creaky floors. Visitors and staff have recounted hearing disembodied footsteps, feeling unexplained drafts, or catching faint voices in the vacant halls. Some claim to have seen a spectral figure resembling Sarah. Winchester herself, draped in black, drifting through the corridors she spent a lifetime constructing. Paranormal investigators have flocked to the mansion armed with thermal imaging, electromagnetic field detectors, and digital voice recorders, all seeking proof of the house's restless spirits. While no definitive evidence has been produced, the eerie atmosphere alone often convinces believers that it is indeed haunted. Skeptics point out that the house's bizarre architecture can easily disorient visitors, making it ripe for illusions or the misinterpretation of ordinary noises. Another plausible explanation is that Sarah Winchester was an eccentric heiress who found solace or obsession in perpetual construction with no supernatural impetus at all. Historical records show that she dealt with immense personal grief, losing both her infant daughter and her husband, so it's possible that her endless modifications were a means of coping with loneliness and sorrow, rather than appeasing vengeful spirits. Today, the Winchester Mystery House is a major tourist attraction. People wander the serpentine hallways, stepping carefully in cramped stairwells and opening doors that lead to precipitous drops. Guided tours narrate the various legends, pointing out architectural curiosities that continue to mystify even seasoned historians. Whether you believe it was designed to thwart ghosts or simply the product of a restless mind, the mansion remains a physical testament to how deeply fear and grief can reshape reality. Its doors, some leading nowhere, beckon the curious to ask, what might we build literally or metaphorically to outrun our own ghosts? A low-frequency mystery, the Taos, in the serenity of New Mexico's high desert, where adobe buildings blend into the dusty earth and endless skies beckon stargazers one might expect nothing but tranquil quiet. Yet in the small artistic enclave of Taos, a baffling sound has tormented residents for decades, the Taos hum. Described as a persistent, low-frequency droning akin to a distant diesel engine idling, the hum remains inaudible to the majority of locals. Those who do perceive it, however, complain of sleepless nights, constant headaches, and an oppressive sense of unease. The phenomenon gained prominence in the early 1990s, prompting scientific investigations by universities and government agencies. acoustic experts set up sensitive recording devices and spectrum analyzers to capture any unusual frequencies, but results consistently showed no definitive source. Some segments of the population hear it clearly, sometimes claiming it's loudest indoors. Others remain blissfully unaware, leading to accusations that the hearers might be suffering from tinnitus or psychological stress. Yet many of these individuals insist they have passed medical evaluations, and the hum is external, not a phantom within their ears. Theories about the Taos hum vary wildly. One suggestion is that it is generated by underground industrial operations, perhaps linked to local utilities or distant factories. Another posits that it might be caused by geological processes such as microseismic vibrations translating into audible frequencies under certain atmospheric conditions. On the more conspiratorial end, some suspect covert military programs or communication devices. Could the region's multiple Air Force research labs be testing subaudible waves? Official denial only deepens suspicion. There is even a more mystical proposition that the hum is an energetic frequency from the Earth itself, like a planet's heartbeat that only certain sensitive individuals can detect. Beyond scientific speculation, the Taos hum has become embedded in the town's cultural identity. Artists incorporate hum-inspired themes into paintings or music. Local shops sell T-shirts and souvenirs referencing it. Yet this blend of tourism and folklore is no consolation for long-time residents who claim their lives are severely disrupted. Some have even abandoned their homes in search of quiet elsewhere. Interestingly, the phenomenon of hums is not unique to Taos. Similar low-frequency noises have been reported in places like Bristol, England, Windsor, Canada, and Kokomo, Indiana. Each has ignited its own flurry of investigations with equally inconclusive results. The recurring appearance of such hums around the globe suggests a more widespread acoustic riddle, one that modern technology has thus far been unable to decisively resolve. At its core, the Taos hum challenges our assumptions about scientific omniscience. In a world of satellites and advanced sensors, how can a persistent sound remain so elusive? The story of the hum underscores a timeless truth that nature and technology can still conspire to create phenomena that evade simple explanation. It also speaks to human subjectivity. The line between an external sound wave and the delicate workings of our inner ears can blur in unexpected ways. Until a breakthrough emerges some new acoustic or neurological insight, the Taos hum will continue resonating in the minds and ears of those who hear it. Secret Experiments, the Montauk Project. Heading northeast from New Mexico to the tip of Long Island, New York, we encounter yet another site, rumored to be the epicenter of clandestine programs, Montauk Point. This picturesque peninsula, known for its lighthouse and surfing spots, also harbors Montauk Air Force Station, a decommissioned base that conspiracy lore claims hosted a series of dark and otherworldly experiments collectively dubbed the Montauk Project. Stories of mind-controlled time travel and contact with non-human entities swirl through these rumors, casting a chilling aura over the abandoned radar towers that still loom above the scrubby dunes. The Montauk myths sprang into prominence in the 1980s and 1990s, largely propelled by a series of books by Preston B. Nichols and Peter Moon. Nichols alleged that he worked on secret government initiatives at the base, encountering technology capable of manipulating psychic energy. Tales of abducted teenagers used as test subjects and subjected to psychological torture add a disturbing edge. According to these sources, the facility's experiments went so far as to open gateways through time. Some accounts even relate that monstrous apparitions like the so-called Montauk Monster were inadvertently pulled into our reality, only to wreak havoc within the underground chambers. Of course, official records paint a more mundane picture. Montauk Air Force Station was primarily used for radar defense and closed in the late 1960s. The federal government, as well as local authorities, deny any involvement in covert research, labeling these stories a combination of science fiction and rumor. Physical evidence, such as leftover bunkers or sealed-off entrances, is easily explained by standard military infrastructure, though believers see them as tantalizing hints of hidden labs. The Montauk tales have infiltrated popular culture, notably inspiring elements of the hit series Stranger Things, which features secret experiments on children and interdimensional portals. While critics dismiss the Montauk Project as pure fantasy, some argue there could be grains of truth behind the legends, perhaps a mix-up with actual classified radar or psychological warfare research that fueled imaginative leaps. The swirling secrecy of the Cold War era certainly left enough gaps for conspiracies to take root. In the absence of definitive documents, the Montauk Project endures as a cautionary fable about unchecked power. It explores the boundary between genuine breakthroughs in quantum or psychological science and ethical boundaries that might be trampled in the pursuit of such knowledge. If the allegations are true, the project's conclusion stands as an unsettling example of how the thirst for military advantage can overshadow moral scruples. If false, it remains an elaborate modern myth born from a potent blend of local rumors, real historical secrecy, and the universal human fascination with glimpsing the unknown. For visitors who venture to Camp Hero State Park, which now encompasses the old base, the sense of mystery is palpable. Overgrown pathways lead to boarded-up bunkers. The towering radar dish stands as a silent sentinel, igniting whispers of invisible transmissions lingering in the salted air. Whether the Montauk Project is a shadowy relic of actual scientific hubris or simply an urban legend at the extremes of imagination, it persists as part of America's pantheon of conspiratorial lore, an ongoing puzzle to those drawn to the edges of the extraordinary. Treasure maps and cipher codes. The Beale ciphers, where Montauk's secrets revolve around potential cosmic or psychic phenomena. The Beale ciphers revolve around tangible wealth, gold, silver, and precious gems potentially worth millions. According to legend, sometime in the early 19th century, a man named Thomas J. Beale and a group of companions discovered a massive treasure in the American West. Transporting it east, they allegedly buried it in the mountains near Bedford, Virginia. Fearing death or other misfortunes, Beale crafted 3 coded messages, ciphers that supposedly revealed the treasure's location, its contents, and the names of the rightful inheritors, then entrusted them to an innkeeper named Robert Morris for safekeeping with instructions to open them only if he failed to return. Beale never returned, and after years of anxious waiting, Morris attempted to decipher the codes. Labeled ciphers, 1, 2, and 3, they appeared as strings of numbers. When attempts by Morris and others to decode them failed, the story went public. Eventually, one of the ciphers was cracked using the Declaration of Independence as a key text. This revealed a tantalizing description of treasure containing thousands of pounds of gold, silver, and jewels. The location and rightful owners, presumably spelled out in ciphers 1 and 3, have remained elusive for over a century. Armed with clue-laden pamphlets detailing the ciphers, treasure hunters have descended upon Bedford County in droves. Some scour the rocky terrain with metal detectors and pickaxes. Others invest in high-tech ground-penetrating radar or satellite imagery to find any sign of hidden caverns. Multiple expeditions have ended in disappointment, and occasionally legal disputes as property owners contend with fortune seekers trespassing on their land. Skeptics claim the entire story is a hoax concocted by creative minds in the 19th century. They point out that no historical evidence places a Thomas J. Beale in the region at the correct time, nor is there verifiable documentation of his expedition or the men who allegedly aided him. Nevertheless, the partial decoding of Cipher 2 detailing the stash's contents seems too elaborate to be a mere con job. Why go to such trouble to create a complex code describing fantastic riches only to never collect on it? Some believe that the keys to the remaining ciphers lie in other historical documents, perhaps linked to American founding texts, Shakespeare's works, or even cryptographic traditions from Freemasonry. Others suspect the codes may require a polyalphabetic cipher or a novel encoding method. Despite modern supercomputers, no solution has definitively cracked the puzzle. Over the years, unverified claims have cropped up. A handful of individuals purport to have solved the ciphers and discovered the treasure, but no gold-laden trove has ever been produced. These inconclusive boasts only add to the story's mystique, ensuring the Beale ciphers remain an epitome of hidden fortune tales. Much like Captain Kidd's fabled treasure, the lure of infinite wealth, combined with the intellectual challenge of unbreakable codes, stirs a universal yearning for adventure. As digital encryption becomes the new frontier, the Beale ciphers serve as a reminder that classic paper ciphers can still outwit even the most advanced algorithms, if indeed there is a genuine solution to be found. The realms of dread and the unseen horizons. Dark woods, the Jersey Devil. Shifting from buried gold to cryptic creatures, we find ourselves in the pine-scented wilderness of New Jersey, a region known as the Pine Barrens. Often perceived as a quiet woodland, these dense forests have for centuries echoed with a legend that sets local hearts pounding the Jersey Devil. Accounts of this strange being date back to at least the early 18th century. The most famous origin story describes Mother Leeds, a woman said to have cursed her 13th child. Upon its birth, the baby transformed into a grotesque winged creature with hooves, a horse-like head, and a blood-curdling screech. Over the ensuing centuries, sporadic sightings reported a winged animal terrorizing local farms, snatching livestock, and inciting widespread panic. In 1909, newspapers went wild, covering a rash of Jersey Devil encounters over a single week, alleging that footprints were discovered in snowy yards, and witnesses claimed terrifying close calls. Schools were closed and vigilante hunting parties patrolled the woods. While skeptics insisted the beast was merely a large eagle or even a prankster in a costume, many who encountered it firsthand reported something far more unsettling, something that defied the ordinary laws of biology and logic. Sightings continue into modern times, though less frequent, often taking the form of motorists who claim a bat-like figure darted across rural highways at night. Photographs occasionally surface blurry, indistinct shapes that spark furious debate online. Scientists and wildlife experts typically dismiss these as misidentified cranes, deer afflicted with disease, or outright hoaxes. Yet the legend endures thanks in part to local folklore and the region's atmospheric environment. The pine barrens' thick canopy, twisting trails, and haunting stillness at twilight create a sense that anything could lurk just beyond the next bend. Beyond the question of whether the Jersey Devil is real, it has become a symbol of New Jersey's cultural identity. Merchandise, sports teams, and tourism campaigns all reference the creature, blending commercial fun with genuine local pride. Paranormal investigations continue to this day with nighttime stakeouts reminiscent of Bigfoot hunts in the Pacific Northwest. Many interpret the entire phenomenon as a cautionary tale about humans venturing into uncharted or unwelcoming lands, while others argue that the story capitalizes on centuries-old superstitions about devils, curses, and the unknown. Regardless of any individual's stance, the Jersey Devil is a prime example of how local folklore evolves into a broader legend embraced by an entire state or region. Sometimes the scariest questions are not about whether something exists, but why such stories persist and how they speak to our deeper fears of nature's unpredictability, of curses handed down by familial or regional history, and of the primal dread that hides in the shadows of any dark forest. For those who have heard the screech echoing among the pines, though the question is simpler, does the flapping silhouette overhead belong to a large bird or to a centuries-old demon child, still roaming the night? The haunting of Tennessee, the Bell Witch, while the Northeast has its horned devil. The rural landscapes of Tennessee are home to a legend that is arguably even more chilling, the Bell Witch haunting. In the early 19th century, John Bell and his family moved to what is now Adams, Tennessee, seeking a pastoral life on a quaint farm. Instead, they purportedly became victims of a malevolent entity that took perverse delight in terrorizing them, knocking on walls, throwing objects, and generating disembodied voices that mocked and threatened the household members. The story goes that the haunting began around 1817 initially, with faint scratching sounds and distant whispers at night. But the phenomena escalated. Bed sheets were yanked off sleeping family members, and the youngest daughter, Betsy, found herself physically assaulted by invisible hands. Neighbors who came to investigate encountered the same inexplicable disturbances, leading to widespread belief that the Bells were indeed cursed by a malicious spirit. Over time, the presence allegedly identified itself as Kate, sometimes referred to as Kate Bat's Witch, after a local woman rumored to have disputes with John Bell. Though the exact nature of the rivalry remains murky, the ghostly intruder seemed oddly fixated on the family patriarch and Betsy in particular. Word spread throughout the region, attracting visitors from as far as Nashville. Politicians, clergy, and curious thrill-seekers arrived only to flee in terror. The witch's mocking voice would echo through the farmhouse, recounting conversations that happened miles away, or even reciting entire sermons delivered earlier in the day. John Bell's health deteriorated under the strain, culminating in his death in 1820. The witch is said to have taken a twisted pride in this, boasting of her role in his demise. In the aftermath, the entity's activity waned, though sporadic reports indicated it lingered for some years, occasionally tormenting the remaining Bells or even other local families. Modern skeptics argue that the tale may have been exaggerated or fabricated, possibly by individuals seeking attention or by family members embroiled in personal feuds. A lack of contemporaneous documentation complicates historical verification, though some diaries and letters mention unexplainable occurrences. Paranormal investigators come armed with electronic voice phenomena, EVP devices, electromagnetic field meters, and cameras, hoping to capture evidence of any lingering presence. The area, including the infamous Bell Witch Cave, where some artifacts were found, remains a point of fascination for ghost hunters and tourists alike. Folklorists note that the Bell Witch legend stands out for its combination of violent poltergeist activity and an entity that seemingly displayed intelligence and personality. Most ghost stories revolve around silent apparitions or residual hauntings, but the Bell Witch actively conversed, threatened, and manipulated its environment in ways rarely matched in folklore. That interactive element has led some to view it as a prime example of early intelligent haunting narratives, bridging superstition and modern paranormal theories. For Tennessee residents steeped in this lore, the Bell Witch is neither wholly believed nor entirely dismissed. Many consider it a local phenomenon that underscores the region's oral storytelling tradition. Whether an actual spirit or a tall tale embellished over time, the haunting reminds us how easily the boundary between the living and the dead can blur, shaped by our fears, our hopes, and our innate fascination with forces we cannot fully comprehend. The puzzle of the past, the Voynich manuscript. While ghosts and devils pique our primal anxieties, certain mysteries tickle the rational mind, daring us to decode hidden knowledge. Chief among these intellectual quandaries is the Voynich manuscript, an enigmatic book that has eluded scholars for over a century. Discovered in 1912 by the Polish-American book dealer Wilfrid Voynich, the manuscript, comprised of roughly 240 vellum pages, features text written in a script that defies classification, accompanied by striking illustrations of unfamiliar plants, astronomical charts, and strangely posed human figures. Carbon dating places the manuscript's creation in the early 15th century, yet no author's name or definitive point of origin has ever been confirmed. The text itself is rendered in what appears to be an unknown language or coded system. Various theories have emerged. It might be a cipher using an intricate code, a constructed language meant to obscure secret knowledge, or even a lost transcription of a foreign tongue. Over the decades, cryptographers, linguists, mathematicians, and amateur puzzle solvers have all taken a stab at deciphering it, yet no universally accepted solution has ever been found. Some proposed breakthroughs briefly captured headlines. For instance, certain researchers claimed the script was a form of encoded medieval Italian or a phonetically disguised dialect. Each supposed decode, however, fails to pass peer review or replicate consistently across the entire manuscript. Meanwhile, the illustrations don't cleanly match known botanical species, though some images vaguely resemble medicinal herbs used in medieval Europe or Asia. Others appear completely fanciful, leading speculation that the book might detail alchemical or mystical practices. The nature of the illustrations spurs further intrigue pages, filled with small nude female figures connected by elaborate networks of tubes and pools reminiscent of biological or astrological diagrams. Some interpret these as symbolic references to fertility or holistic medicine, while others see them as early attempts at illustrating cellular or cosmic processes. If the text contained a revolutionary, scientific, or esoteric system, the author may have encoded it to safeguard its secrets. Then there are those who suspect the Voynich manuscript is an elaborate hoax crafted for financial gain or academic pranks. Yet such a deception would require remarkable skill and resources. The consistent internal structure of the text indicates a sophisticated system, implying that the author spent a great deal of time ensuring it had genuine linguistic or code-like qualities, rather than random gibberish. Moreover, the vellum dates to a period long before forging medieval manuscripts became a lucrative enterprise. Today, the Voynich manuscript resides at Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library, where it continues to attract both serious and whimsical attempts at decryption. Digital scans are freely available online, enabling a global community of investigators to propose theories, analyze letter frequencies, and search for patterns. Yet the manuscript's ultimate meaning remains elusive. Are we looking at a lost compendium of herbal knowledge from a forgotten culture, a treatise on astrology and alchemy, or a meticulously crafted riddle with no real solution? Whatever the truth, the Voynich manuscript stands as a testament to the boundless curiosity of humankind. We may decipher ancient hieroglyphs, harness nuclear energy, and map the genome. But some secrets, it seems, still retain their cloak of shadows. Gold fever in Arizona. The Lost Dutchman's Mine. From coded tomes to hidden gold, our next mystery deposits us among Arizona's rugged Superstition Mountains east of Phoenix. Here, under the relentless desert sun and towering cliffs, countless treasure seekers have pursued the fabled Lost Dutchman's gold mine. The legend centers on a German immigrant named Jacob Waltz, often called the Dutchman, due to a confusion of nationalities, who is said to have stumbled upon a rich vein of gold in the 19th century. Waltz reportedly lived modestly, revealing only on his deathbed cryptic hints about the mine's location to a confidant named Julia Thomas. In the years since Waltz's passing, rumor has it that so many have ventured into the superstitions, with pick shovels, and hope that it's impossible to track them all. These mountains are known for treacherous terrain, scorching heat, and sudden weather changes. Some searchers never returned, igniting sensational lore of curses, ghostly guardians, and hidden guardians that protect the mine from outsiders. Indeed, scattered bodies and abandoned camps found over the decades have only amplified the region's ominous aura. Skeptics argue that the Lost Dutchman's mine is mythical, asserting that the story took shape from unremarkable local gold, finds then ballooned into a national obsession. Others point to old Spanish mining records, indigenous lore, or 19th century maps indicating that the region might still hide valuable deposits. Believers pass Waltz's rumored deathbed confessions for geographical markers, a needle-like rock formation, an elusive canyon, or particular alignment of peaks that might match the cryptic instructions. The labyrinth of canyons, ridges, and hidden waterfalls in the Superstition Range ensures that every new expedition can claim unique evidence. Local authorities, including the U.S. Forest Service, frequently warn amateur prospectors of the hazards, emphasizing that the area's ruggedness can turn a simple hike into a life-threatening ordeal. Still, the allure remains powerful. Some modern hunters use metal detectors, drones, and GPS technology to comb remote areas in search of glints of precious metal or tailings from old mines. Occasional rumors of found ore samples or newly discovered shafts spur waves of renewed interest, though verifiable success stories remain elusive. Beyond the gold itself, the Lost Dutchman's mine has woven itself into Arizona folklore. Festivals, museums, and tourism revolve around the theme of hidden treasure, celebrating the region's pioneer heritage. Interestingly, many long-time residents prefer not to encourage the mania, recalling lost or injured friends who ventured out and never came home. For them, the legend serves as both an economic draw and a cautionary tale reminding us that the desert can be both enchanting and merciless. Ultimately, the Lost Dutchman's mine encapsulates a distinctly American archetype, the lure of sudden wealth lying just around the bend, combined with a rugged landscape that embodies both opportunity and peril. Whether a genuine vein of gold waits within the Superstition Mountains, or the story is purely a gilded yarn, the hope of transforming one's fortunes endure. It testifies that some legends grow not because they are proven, but because they speak to our collective yearning for discovery and reward. Worldwide, whispers, the hum. Earlier, we explored the Taos hum, but it's worth noting that the hum is not a localized event unique to New Mexico. Across the globe in locales as diverse as Kokomo, Indiana, Windsor, Ontario, and Bristol, England, reports of a maddening low-frequency buzz have persisted for years, even decades. Like a constantly running motor that never goes away, the hum has drawn scientific and media curiosity. Yet attempts to isolate its source often end in frustration. Sufferers describe a deep throbbing vibration that penetrates walls and windows, making sleep elusive and concentration difficult. This phenomenon typically affects a small subset of the population, sometimes as few as 2% in a given area, leading to theories about heightened auditory sensitivity. Others suspect industrial noises such as factory equipment, high-pressure gas lines, or underground pumps. In Kokomo, for instance, an automotive plant was initially blamed for the city's hum. Though some improvements in the factory's ventilation system reportedly reduced noise levels, many citizens claimed they still heard the hum afterwards, suggesting multiple or more elusive sources. Psychological explanations cannot be dismissed. Chronic exposure to low-level noise or the knowledge of its reported presence might cause certain individuals to become hyper-attuned. This effect can be compounded by stress insomnia and the nocebo phenomenon, a variation of the placebo effect where negative expectations of health issues exacerbate symptoms. Critics of purely psychosomatic theories point out that numerous hearers had no prior knowledge of the phenomenon before complaining, while others indicate fluctuations in the hum's presence independent of personal stress level. A more adventurous hypothesis ties the hum to military communications, extremely low-frequency ELF waves used for submarine contact, or advanced radar experiments. Official sources typically deny any link, but the secrecy inherent in defense projects only fuels suspicion. Some blame mass energy grids or earth tremors, pointing to occasional correlations with seismic shifts or electromagnetic anomalies recorded by geologists. Interestingly, the mild relief some people experience when traveling long distances from their homes could support the idea of a localized source. But in other cases, travelers continue to hear the hum wherever they go, reinforcing the possibility that it might be internal, for instance, the vascular or muscular system generating tinnitus-like effects. Laboratory experiments that reproduce low-frequency sound sometimes fail to trigger the same distress in self-reported hearers, deepening the puzzle. In the absence of consensus, the hum remains one of the most widespread yet elusive phenomena, Efforts to coordinate global research often stall as each town or region grapples with its own localized conditions, different industries, terrains, and population densities. Some communities in desperation have formed grassroots movements to document occurrences, share coping strategies, and pressure local governments for investigative action. Yet, like so many modern mysteries, the hum dwells in the boundary between external environmental factors and the nuanced sensitivities of the human body and mind. Eerie encounters. The black-eyed children. Phantom sounds are unsettling, but an altogether different dread emerges from sightings of the so-called black-eyed children, pale young figures with completely black eyes who allegedly appear at random, usually at night, requesting help or entry into homes and vehicles. First widely publicized by a journalist in Texas in the late 1990s, this phenomenon has proliferated via online forums and social media, turning into a modern-day urban legend. Yet the narratives share haunting consistency. Two or more children, perhaps aged 8 to 13, knock on a door or window late at night, speaking in soft, polite voices, yet evoking an overwhelming sensation of fear in witnesses. Their eyes are said to be pitch black, lacking sclera or iris. Why do these stories continue to spread? One theory is the psychological power of the uncanny. Children, generally a symbol of innocence, become chilling when something is off, like having entirely black eyes. This taps into primal anxieties about infiltration or corruption of the familiar. Witness accounts often mention feeling compelled to open the door or let the children in as though under mild hypnotic influence before snapping out of it at the last moment. Those who do open the door occasionally describe immediate regret, with a sense that something malevolent just crossed their threshold, although details on subsequent events remain murky. Skeptics and psychologists propose that the black-eyed children phenomenon might be a social contagion of creepy storytelling, akin to Slender Man or other digital age myths. The story's structure, a knock late at night, a request to come inside a wave of inexplicable dread, mirrors classic vampire lore. The black eyes could be contact lenses, although that presupposes a planned hoax. Others wonder if these sightings are hallucinations or illusions triggered by sleep paralysis or partial awakenings, especially in dimly lit conditions. Nevertheless, every so often, a new account surfaces from someone claiming no knowledge of the legend, who was petrified after encountering these strange children. The proliferation of doorbell cameras and home security footage has yet to capture convincing evidence, but that absence might be explained by the very nature of the phenomenon. If it is indeed supernatural, perhaps it evades digital detection. Or more simply, it might be an elaborate example of group storytelling, with each new witness subconsciously adopting the tropes of earlier tales. As with so many modern legends, the black-eyed children reflect deeper cultural anxieties. Fear of intrusion, the breakdown of safe domestic spaces, and the ambiguous line between innocence and malevolence. Whether genuine creatures or a collective ghost story, their presence in the public imagination is undeniable. Late at night, after all, a knock at the door can be the most terrifying sound when you suspect that the visitor's eyes hold a strange and bottomless darkness. A 1950s encounter, the Flatwoods Monster. Long before the Men in Black became cultural icons, the 1950s were rife with UFO hysteria. Among the many sightings that peppered the decade, the Flatwoods Monster incident of 1952 holds a special place in West Virginian lore. On a crisp September evening in the small town of Flatwoods, local children saw a glowing object streak across the sky and crash into a hillside. Eager to investigate, they, along with a local mother, ventured forth into the darkness, armed only with flashlights. Their journey up the hill produced a memory that would define their lives forever. Amid the tall grass and enveloping shadows, the group encountered a bizarre figure. Descriptions vary slightly, but it was roughly 2 to 3 meters tall, seemed to hover or glide rather than walk, and wore what appeared to be a dark cloak or skirt-like structure. The creature's head was shaped oddly, some say spade-like, and it emitted a pungent sulfuric smell. Bright, piercing eyes glowed red in the flashlight beams, and a sense of dread overcame the witnesses. Terrified, they fled back to town, where some experienced nausea and other strange after-effects. News of the encounter spread, attracting journalists, UFO enthusiasts, and even official inquiries. While no physical evidence surfaced, the consistency of witness accounts piqued public interest. Skeptics quickly offered a mundane explanation. The so-called monster was likely a startled barn owl perched on a branch, its shape distorted by the darkness and the frightened imaginations of the onlookers. The glowing object was dismissed as a meteor, common enough in night skies. Yet believers argue that the terrifying shape and the powerful odor could not be explained by an owl alone. The local terrain indeed contained burn marks, though they could have been from any number of causes. The Flatwoods monster story underscores the dynamic between rural communities and the media spotlight. For years, residents of the area fielded questions about the fateful night, and the town capitalized on its new identity, hosting festivals and unveiling small attractions that celebrate the event. The creature's image has appeared in video games, documentaries, and countless internet memes, evolving into a cultural icon. From a paranormal standpoint, the Flatwoods monster is often compared to other regional cryptids like Mothman in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, or the Jersey Devil in the Pine Barrens. Some suggest it might be an alien visitor linking the sightings of unidentified craft in the region around that time. Others propose a psychological explanation, pointing out that the early 1950s were rife with Cold War tensions, nuclear dread, and a blossoming fascination with extraterrestrial life. Whichever viewpoint one takes, the Flatwoods monster remains an enduring piece of Americana, an unsettling cameo in the broader UFO narrative of the mid-20th century. It highlights how a single bright flash in the sky and a few moments of fright can yield a legend that still resonates decades later, reminding us of how the extraordinary can take hold of a community's collective imagination, shaping its identity in ways both exhilarating and eerie. Curse of the Blue, Gem, the Hope Diamond. American mysteries are not confined to strange creatures or alien craft. Sometimes they glitter under museum lights. The Hope Diamond. A 45.52-carat blue diamond housed in the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., stands as a testament to beauty layered with a notorious legend of misfortune. From the moment it was hewn from India's Kolar mine in the 17th century, stories of a curse have shadowed it, claiming that any who possess this blue gem will suffer calamity, be it bankruptcy, illness, madness, or violent death. French gem merchant Jean-Baptiste Tavernier is said to have first acquired the diamond, then known for its much larger size. According to legend, he plucked it from the eye of a Hindu idol, though historians dispute the authenticity of that tale. In any case, Fate eventually led Tavernier to financial ruin. King Louis XIV purchased and recut it, transforming it into the French blue, which graced royal regalia until it vanished during the French Revolution. Marie Antoinette's beheading, some say, served as proof of the diamond's devastating power. In the 19th century, the gem surfaced in the possession of London banker Thomas Hope, giving the stone its current name. The Hope family, once wealthy, encountered mysterious declines in fortune and health. Subsequent owners fared little better. One heiress reportedly lost multiple family members soon after acquiring it. Another wealthy socialite, Evelyn Walsh McLean, insisted it was mere superstition until personal tragedies, including the death of her son, cast a grim shadow over her life. Stories of suicides, divorces, and institutionalizations follow the diamond's path through private collections, further strengthening the legend. Eventually, the gem came into the hands of American jeweler Harry Winston, who donated it to the Smithsonian in 1958, mailing it in a plain brown package. Since then, it has gleamed in the museum's display, seemingly bringing no fresh disasters to its keepers unless one counts a minor mishap involving the mailman who delivered it, who reportedly had a series of unfortunate events in subsequent years. Whether the diamond's chain of misfortunes is purely coincidence, confirmation bias, or genuine supernatural wrath remains an open debate. The cursed narrative has undeniably boosted the diamond's allure, spurring tourism and fascination. Many gem experts and historians contend that catastrophic events attributed to the diamond are not extraordinary for an item that has changed hands among the European and American elite individuals often embroiled in complex finances, high-stakes politics, and fragile family dynasties. A priceless jewel tends to gravitate toward turbulent contexts, making tragedies more likely or more publicized. Yet the myth persists, a reflection of humanity's long-standing belief in enchanted relics and the power of ancient curses. Today, the Hope Diamond remains a star attraction, with visitors lining up to admire its rare deep blue luster. Protected behind glass, it sparkles with a brilliance that belies the dark tales swirling about its history. A shining focal point for gemologists, historians, and superstitious onlookers alike. The Hope Diamond stands as both a masterpiece of natural wonder and a reminder that human stories, especially those involving wealth, power, and misfortune, are often as colorful and enduring as any ancient myth. Sky Heist Mystery. D.B. Cooper. From cursed gems to a perplexing crime thriller, no list of American enigmas would be complete without mention of D.B. Cooper, the pseudonym given to the unidentified individual who hijacked Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 on November 24, 1971. The day before Thanksgiving, a man in a business suit purchased a one-way ticket from Portland to Seattle. Mid-flight, he passed a note to a flight attendant revealing that he had a bomb in his briefcase. Calmly, yet decisively, he demanded $200,000 in ransom, 4 parachutes, and a refueling stop in Seattle. Upon landing in Seattle, Cooper released the passengers in exchange for the cash and parachutes, retaining only select crew members. The aircraft took off again, heading south on a flight path that Cooper himself dictated low-altitude flaps at 15 degrees, cruising at roughly 10,000 feet. Sometime after 8:00 p.m., in stormy conditions, Cooper lowered the plane's aft stairs and leaped into the freezing darkness over southwestern Washington, never to be seen again. Authorities launched one of the largest manhunts in U.S. history. Army troops, local police, and FBI agents scoured the forests, rivers, and plains. Not a single conclusive trace emerged, save for a few ransom bills discovered by a boy on the banks of the Columbia River in 1980. The FBI pursued a mountain of leads over decades, examining thousands of suspects. Several were arrested under suspicion or confessed to being Cooper, yet all were dismissed for lack of proof. Names like Richard Floyd McCoy, Robert Rackstraw, and Kenneth Christensen have surfaced as prime candidates, each with circumstantial evidence pointing to them. Yet no definitive link, no smoking gun ever materialized. Cooper's ability to vanish into thin air remains the hallmark of the case. Some hypothesize that Cooper didn't survive the jump, parachuting into rough terrain at night in poor weather wearing loafers and a business suit seems a sure recipe for disaster. However, the absence of a body gear or more ransom money has kept this possibility open to question. Others believe he executed a flawless plan armed with knowledge of aircraft parachutes and the local topography, possibly stashing the money and starting a new life. The partial find of the ransom money near the Columbia River only heightens the mystery. Did Cooper bury the loot, lose some in the jump, or deliberately scatter it to mislead investigators? Over time, the FBI officially suspended active investigations, though the legend thrives in American culture. D.B. Cooper has become a folk hero, to some representing the audacious individual who outsmarted the system. Paradoxically, he also embodies the ultimate unknown criminal with possible felony and mortal consequences, overshadowing the romantic allure. The hijacking stands as the only unsolved case of its kind in U.S. aviation history, testament to a moment in an era before heightened airport security, where one man could board with a bomb, extort a fortune, and vanish into the stormy sky. No conclusive answer seems forthcoming. Whether Cooper died on impact or sips cocktails under an assumed identity remains an evergreen topic of debate. Sleuths, both amateur and professional, parse every detail from the tie he left on board to the significance of the Dan Cooper comic book reference. Regardless of the truth, the D.B. Cooper story endures as an iconic piece of Americana, a high-flying, mid-century whodunit that continues to enthrall and perplex, weaving itself seamlessly into the country's tapestry of enduring mystery. Ghost Ship at Sea, the Mary Celeste. A discussion of unsolved puzzles would be incomplete without a classic maritime ghost story, the saga of the Mary Celeste. Discovered adrift on December 5, 1872 by the crew of the Dei Gratia, the Mary Celeste became an enduring riddle because its crew vanished without any sign of struggle or catastrophe. The ship's cargo, some 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, remained intact, and personal belongings were undisturbed. The lifeboat was missing, suggesting the crew's departure, but why would they abandon a perfectly seaworthy vessel with ample provisions? Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, their 2-year-old daughter, and 7 crew members were all aboard. Investigators found no signs of foul play, no blood, no damage to the hull, no violent storms recorded in the log. Yet the last log entry, dated 10 days prior, indicated nothing amiss. Speculation soon ran rampant. Had pirates attacked, leaving the cargo untouched, but kidnapping the crew for ransom? Perhaps the crew had mutinied, but again, for what reason would they leave the valuable cargo and ship behind? A plausible scenario involves a faulty cargo of alcohol. Some hypothesize that fumes or minor explosions in the hold panicked the crew into abandoning ship temporarily in the lifeboat, expecting the Mary Celeste might blow. If strong winds separated them, they could have drifted away, while the Mary Celeste bobbed placidly onward, eventually discovered empty. Supporters of this theory reference the found barrels, claiming a few were empty or in poor condition, possibly leading to a buildup of vapors. Still, questions linger. If that was the case, one might expect them to reboard once it was clear the ship wasn't exploding. Others note that the ship's pumps were disassembled, the sails partially set, and some of the rigging damaged, though not severely. Each detail can be interpreted differently: incompetent navigation, incompetent sabotage, or just a desperate attempt to correct a listing or flooding issue. With no survivors to clarify the story, devolved into wilder narratives, sea monsters, ghostly interventions, or even Atlantis-related phenomena. The Mary Celeste was eventually salvaged and continued to sail under various owners, but it never quite shed its spectral reputation. Decades later, it met an ignoble end when a captain hoping to commit insurance fraud deliberately ran it aground. No grand cosmic retribution followed, but the Mary Celeste's story remains iconic, an inexplicable event that exemplifies how even advanced maritime knowledge can fail to account for human decisions made under panic or confusion. The deeper appeal lies in the enduring void left by the vanished souls. How does an entire crew and family simply slip out of history? Over 150 years have passed, and each retelling of the Mary Celeste saga underscores that some answers lie forever out of reach. Even as science finds rational frameworks for phenomena once deemed supernatural, the simplest mysteries, like why sailors left a functioning ship, can defy closure. In that sense, the Mary Celeste remains adrift in our collective imagination, a floating emblem of unanswered questions and the sobering possibility that sometimes, in the face of adversity, humans make choices so dramatic they morph into legend. Watchful wings in the night, the Mothman. Before concluding, our journey through American mysteries takes us back to West Virginia, where a winged specter known as the Mothman soared into local lore in the 1960s. Legend holds that on November 15th, 1966, two young couples driving near an old munition site in Point Pleasant spotted a creature around 6 or 7 feet tall with large wings and glowing red eyes. Terrified, they sped away at high velocity, yet the being followed effortlessly. Soon, others reported similar sightings, describing an eerie figure that emitted a high-pitched screech and could ascend vertically without flapping its wings. For over a year, Mothman sightings plagued Point Pleasant, escalating the region's sense of apprehension. The wave of reports culminated on December 15, 1967, when the Silver Bridge, a critical crossing over the Ohio River, collapsed during rush-hour traffic, claiming 46 lives. In the tragedy's aftermath, many locals recalled seeing the Mothman near the bridge shortly before its collapse. Whether it was a harbinger of doom, a cryptid drawn to the structural vibrations, or pure coincidence remains fiercely debated. Skeptics argue that the majority of sightings were probably large herons or sandhill cranes, their eyes reflecting red in headlights. The fear swirling around the small town could have amplified each subsequent sighting. Yet the Mothman legend endures, bolstered by John Keel's 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, which tied the sightings to broader paranormal activity, including UFO reports, bizarre phone calls, and Men in Black visitations. A film adaptation in 2002 further expanded Mothman's fame, solidifying its place in American pop culture. In Point Pleasant today, the Mothman is more than just a frightening memory. The community hosts an annual festival celebrating the legend, complete with a Mothman museum and a towering statue in the town center. Shops sell Mothman memorabilia, and thousands of tourists visit each year, hoping to glimpse the area's mysterious past. As is often the case, local lore merges with entrepreneurial spirit, blending fear with fascination. Modern Mothman sightings sporadically resurface in places as far as Chicago, Russia, or Mexico, particularly in times of anticipated disaster. Such stories portray the creature as an omen of cataclysms, though documentation is fleeting and anecdotal. Does Mothman represent a hitherto unknown species of bird, a paranormal specter, or a product of mass hysteria fueled by communal anxiety? No consensus exists, and perhaps that is the essence of these enduring mysteries. They are ink-blot tests for our collective psyche, inviting each of us to see harbingers, illusions, or cryptids based on our individual beliefs and fears. Fire from within, spontaneous human combustion, and wildfires. As if cryptids and curses were not unsettling enough, there exists an even more disquieting mystery that ventures into the realm of the impossible, spontaneous human combustion, SHC. The concept describes instances in which a human body appears to burst into flames from no external source, reducing limbs and torsos to ashes, often leaving nearby furniture and surroundings curiously intact. One of the most cited cases is that of Mary Celeste in St. Petersburg, Florida, found in 1951, almost entirely consumed by fire, except for her lower leg and part of her skull. Strangely, the rest of the room showed minimal burn damage. Over the centuries, dozens of such cases have been documented, though each is contested. Fire investigators usually lean on the wick effect theory, which suggests that a small external ignition, like a smoldering cigarette, can ignite the victim's clothing, and body fat acts like candle wax, fueling a slow, intense blaze. Yet critics argue that this does not explain why fires in SHC cases burn at such high temperatures, seemingly localized to the victim's body. They also note that many incidents appear to lack a credible ignition source. Even more intriguing is the sporadic correlation some observers draw between SHC cases and larger wildfires or heightened atmospheric electricity. While not scientifically proven, this notion suggests an environmental or electromagnetic trigger that interacts with a rare condition in the human body, possibly a buildup of acetone or other flammable gases. Others propose psychological or psychokinetic origins, citing episodes in poltergeist literature that mention objects catching fire spontaneously. Mainstream science remains highly skeptical of any supernatural explanation, pointing out that in nearly every well-documented case, plausible sources of ignition exist. Victims were often alone, sometimes heavy smokers, possibly in states of intoxication or with mobility impairments, preventing them from extinguishing the flames. The extraordinary outcome might be due to a slow, smoldering burn. Yet the question remains why these fires would focus so completely on a single individual without spreading through the environment. Researchers continue to examine historical and modern accounts, acknowledging that while the phenomenon may not be supernatural, it reveals how easily circumstances can conspire to produce baffling burn patterns. Whether you accept the wick effect as a complete explanation or lean toward more esoteric theories, spontaneous human combustion remains a chilling footnote in forensic pathology. Portals and creatures, Skinwalker Ranch. We cap our exploration with a place whose name alone evokes shivers among paranormal enthusiasts, Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. Reputed to be a hotbed of bizarre phenomena, ranging from UFO sightings and orbs of light to poltergeist-like activity and cryptid encounters, this remote property has earned a reputation as one of America's strangest locales. The term Skinwalker hails from Navajo lore, describing a malevolent witch capable of shape-shifting into animals. In the region's indigenous peoples have long considered the land cursed or inhabited by dangerous spirits. The ranch first drew national attention in the mid-1990s when the Sherman family new owners reported a series of alarming incidents. Their cattle were found mutilated in surgically precise ways devoid of blood, as if done by advanced instruments. Glowing orbs danced through the night sky, disorienting animals and humans alike. Occasional glimpses of large, wolf-like creatures impervious to gunfire stoked rumors of skinwalkers or genetically manipulated beasts. Word reached Las Vegas real estate magnate Robert Bigelow, known for his interest in the paranormal. He purchased the ranch and established a team of scientists and researchers under the National Institute for Discovery. Science NIDS, armed with night vision cameras, radar, and a host of sensing equipment, they stayed on site to document any anomalies. While the NIDS findings remain partly confidential, anecdotal reports from team members describe encountering poltergeist-level trickery equipment, manipulated or destroyed, intense psychological unease, and fleeting sightings of unknown entities. Attempts to capture definitive proof on camera or sensor were often thwarted by malfunctions at critical moments. Some researchers hypothesized that the phenomenon, whatever its nature, might display intelligence actively avoiding exposure. The place was eventually sold again, and a new wave of private research continues under tight security, fueling curiosity about undisclosed discoveries. Skeptics argue that Skinwalker Ranch's high strangeness could be attributed to misidentifications of natural phenomena. For example, ball lightning, atmospheric plasma events, or advanced military aircraft tested in the region might explain UFO sightings. Predatory animals could be behind livestock mutilations. Yet the sheer variety and frequency of accounts, mutilations, cryptids, poltergeists, and wormhole-like anomalies stretches conventional explanations. Even if only a fraction of the stories are true, they suggest something extraordinary. Local Native American traditions lend credence to the idea that certain lands carry unique energies or spirits. The ranch's legacy as a site of endless weirdness intersects with those beliefs, creating a cultural and paranormal tapestry that continues to intrigue investigators. Documentaries, television series, and ongoing rumors ensure that Skinwalker Ranch's legend grows with each passing year. Ultimately, Skinwalker Ranch stands as a testament to how a single location can become a nexus for every variety of unexplained phenomenon, from cryptids and poltergeists to UFOs and intangible feelings of dread. Whether it represents a genuine portal to unknown dimensions or a cluster of overlapping, misunderstood events, the ranch invites us to question the boundaries of our reality, bridging folklore with modern science. In a world where technology grows ever more capable, perhaps Skinwalker Ranch is precisely the crucible we need, a place that pushes our investigative tools and open-mindedness to their limits. Until a definitive revelation emerges, the ranch endures as one of the most baffling and evocative sights in the American paranormal landscape.